Good evening. I'd like to call the San Gabriel City Council, the regular meeting to order, March 5th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Tonight I'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand, place your right hand over your heart and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Harrington,
Here.
Vice Mayor Wu,
Here.
Councilmember Chan,
Here.
Councilmember Ding,
Yeah.
Councilmember Menchaca. Here.
Thank you. We'll now have some announcements from our Chief City Clerk.
Tonight's meeting is live streamed on the city's online platforms. If you wish to address the City Council during tonight's meeting, we request that you please complete a speaker's card and hand it to the clerk. When speaking, please state your name for the record. If you wish to receive City Council agendas, please sign up on the city's website.
Thank you. Next, we'll have the approval of the agenda order. Are there any objections to agenda order? Nope. All right. So, motion to approve agenda order? Okay. We don't need one then. No objections, we'll move on. Agenda order approved. Next item, please.
Presentations, Women's History Month. Mayor Harrington will make the presentation, and we will now invite the following business owners to come to the podium to accept the proclamation. Yonette Elaine of Caribbean Gourmet, Roxanne Guzman of Luna's Restaurant, and Karina Rivera of El Pavo Bakery.
Thank you. So this is the proclamation of the City of San Gabriel for Women's History Month. So thank you, women, for attending. Whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways, and whereas American women have played and continue to play a critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of life of the nation by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside the home, and whereas American women have played a unique role throughout the history of the nation by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force of the nation, and were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation, and whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background served as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement, and whereas American women have served and continue to serve our country courageously in the military, and whereas American women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement and the emancipation movement, in the industrial labor movement and the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially in the peace movement, which create more and fair, just society for all. Therefore, the City Council does declare March 2024 as Women's History Month in the City of San Gabriel, and we'll invite each of our participants to come up and receive a certificate from the city for the wonderful contributions of American women. Thank you. So we'll do the certificates and everything first, and then we'll get some words from each of you afterwards.
Thank you to Vice Mayor also. Thank you so much. It's an honor to receive this proclamation. And as a woman who is an immigrant, who has come straight to California, and for the past 26 years, doing my part and enjoying it. And it's an honor for me to receive this. I'm proud, and a part of this community now. I mean, I became a part of the SGV when Blossom Market opened, and I'm a resident of the community now because my family and I moved from Los Feliz to Arcadia 3 months ago. So we're even more in the community, and we enjoy the support we're getting here. The community has embraced us, they've welcomed us, and they've made things better for all, because when you feel welcome, you want to do more, you want to contribute more, because it's not easy coming to a big country from a small country and having to navigate. But then when you get to a certain point and you have people rallying around you and showing you and helping you and advising you, it's a real good feeling. So I thank you. Thank everyone. My husband is here with me this evening. Thanks to my husband for always being my biggest supporter. And thanks for these other women. I know you well. just met. You know, thanks to you guys for being a support. We're support to each other. Thank you, and congratulations to you too also. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Harrington and council members, for this recognition tonight. You know, Pablo has been part of the community for almost 62 years. So I have had the privilege of running it for the past 20 years, and it has been a neighborhood, San Gabriel neighborhood bakery. And with this recognition is all the hard work and all the stress that my family has gone through just to stay afloat is all worth it, just for this recognition for myself as a woman, as a single mother more than anything, and dedicating myself to making the business work for not just us, but for the whole community. So I really appreciate this, because this gives us encouragements to keep on going, and we know that we're doing something right. And as a woman, I really, really appreciate this. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Council, for this beautiful acknowledging us as a businesswoman. One thing I do want to say is the reason why I opened up Luna's with my husband was because we wanted to serve the community of San Gabriel. So we got to keep in mind that we don't build businesses, we build people, and the people build the business. So thank you again for everything.
Again, we do appreciate everything that these businesses and you individually have contributed to the community, so thank you and congratulations. Next item, please.
Public comment. This is the time set aside for members of the public to address the City Council on items of interest that are not on the agenda but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the San Gabriel City Council. If you wish to address the council, please fill out a speaker's card and hand it to the clerk. Our first comment this morning came through the this evening came through the website. It is from Karina Rivera, resident, and reads as follows. Dear Mayor and City Council members, I am writing to express my concern regarding the involvement of teenagers in discussions related to LGBT+ issues in the HERE Commission meeting that took place on February 27th. In the meeting, Commissioner Goto asked the student representative, a teenager, if she could reach out to various clubs at her school and see if there are any young people who would be comfortable attending a City Council meeting and speaking publicly. While I understand the importance of engaging young people in conversations about diversity, inclusion, and acceptance, it is crucial to consider the potential risks and ethical implications of involving minors in sensitive topics such as sexual orientation and gender identity. Social pressures are part of the school experience of many students, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. But the experience can be particularly difficult for LGBT+ students who often struggle to make sense of their identities, lack support from family and friends, and encounter negative messaging about LGBT+ people at school and in their community. Teenagers are at a stage of development when they are still forming their own beliefs, values, and identities. Introducing complex and potentially controversial topics like LGBT+ rights without proper guidance and support can lead to confusion, misinformation, or even harm. It is essential to provide age-appropriate education that respects the emotional and cognitive maturity of young individuals. LGBT+ youth already face higher rates of discrimination, bullying, and mental health challenges compared to their heterosexual peers. Exposing them to public discussions on LGBT+ issues without adequate safeguards in place can further exacerbate their vulnerability. As a city that values inclusivity and equality, we must prioritize the well-being of all our residents, especially those who may be more susceptible to negative consequences. Instead of directly involving teenagers in public debates on LGBT+ topics, we should explore alternative approaches that promote understanding and empathy. By tailoring our efforts to meet the specific needs of young individuals, we can foster a more inclusive and respectful community for everyone. It is important to ensure that the teenagers involved in those discussions are provided with proper support, guidance, and resources to navigate potentially sensitive topics. Creating a safe and inclusive environment where they feel comfortable expressing their thoughts and opinions is crucial. Moreover, it is essential to include the permission, support, and opinion of their parents. In conclusion, I urge the City Council to reconsider the participation of teenagers in discussions related to issues that are sensitive to the well-being of our youth. We all know teenage years can be chaotic, and social pressure regarding their looks, eating disorders, mental health, and overall acceptance plays an important role on how they can perceive themselves. Let's prioritize their well-being and development by taking a thoughtful and responsible approach to youth engagement so that we can create a more supportive environment for all members of our community. Thank you for your attention to this important matter. The next comment is from a resident of 25 years and reads as follows. On Monday, March 6th, I received a message from a San Gabriel City Council member, CM. I found that a person I supported for this position, behavior was inappropriate. The message was the CM's personal voter guide regarding different political candidates. Statements about the CM's choices talk about certain candidates where a no comment, positive, or very negative with abusive description for these candidates was given. As a decision maker, the SGC council member's statement should have been made without boasting about the CM's role. The CM is saying, I am a leader in San Gabriel and you should follow my choices. And that concludes the comment. And then our first in-person speaker is Jason Hugh.
Hello. Hey. Honored Mayor Harrington, Vice Mayor Wu, and honored City Council Member Eric, Tony, and Denise. Hi. So hope you guys are doing well. My name is Jason. I'm the new field representative from Assembly Member Mike Phom's office, representing California's 49th Assembly District, which includes our beloved city of San Gabriel. And I will be covering the city of San Gabriel on Assembly members' behalf. So I first want to thank Councilmember Denise for a very fortunate opportunity to tour the Mission Playhouse 2 weeks ago. And we had a deep dive into the city's rich culture and artistic history. A little bit about myself. I immigrated here when I was 17, went to high school nearby, and college here in LA. And although I used to live in Alhambra and now El Monte, but San Gabriel has always felt like a home to me. Not only for its great food, but also for its amazing small businesses, diverse culture, and a very, very friendly neighborhood. And before becoming a field rep for the Assembly member, I was a reporter in the region for several years. So I'm very familiar with some of the issues we're facing, some of the deepest concerns of our residents, including violent crimes against the elders, commercial retail thefts, etc. So now, as a public servant and a representative for Assembly Member Phom, I'm more eager to know about what's going on in the city and what you guys need. And I will try my best to relay my messages, coordinate our actions, and support the city of San Gabriel at my full capacity. So again, nice to see you guys, meet you guys in person, and looking forward to working with you all in the future. That concludes my message.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Cheryl Cabot.
Mayor and council members, I'm Cheryl Cabot. I am a commissioner for the City of San Gabriel. I have served on the Community Services Commission for the past 6 years. This comment is in response to the Hear Commission meeting held on February 27th, 2024. I was appalled by the comments of the commissioners at this meeting. They spent a good portion of the meeting lambasting Councilmember Denise Menchaca because she dared to question the need for the LGBTQ sticker project. Councilmember Menchaca was called a privileged straight gender person, as if this is something derogatory. My question is this: if businesses don't want to put an LGBTQ sticker on the door of their business, will you bully them as well and call them derogatory names? Will you tell people to boycott their businesses? Now you've expanded your supposed scope to include all city businesses and buildings, city buildings. You, and I mean this collectively as the commissioners, seem to have forgotten your positions. You are volunteers, not elected officials. Your job is to make recommendations to the city council, not demand that the council do your bidding. The only people who get to vote on all things concerning the city are the elected council members. They, and they alone, get to determine what issues are important to the city. I repeat, they are elected officials. You are volunteers and are expendable. By far, the most shocking and disturbing statement came from Chairperson Gatto. She asked the teen commissioner to reach out to students at Gabriel High School that would be willing to talk to the city council in public about being LGBTQ. This is disturbing on so many levels. First, these are minors. You are trying to exploit them. Did you consider the emotional backlash this could create? You exploited a minor by asking her to find LGBTQ students to speak in public in support of your sticker project. It was easy to see the student commissioner was very uncomfortable with this request. She is a minor. Secondly, what if these minors decide to speak in public at a city council meeting about their gender proclivity without parental consent? Did you consider the repercussions? It's doubtful that you or your fellow commissioners thought of that. You were so busy patting yourselves on your collective backs about how you were solving a non-existing problem for our city. You didn't consider the consequences. San Gabriel is already an inclusive, welcoming city, and if not, slapping a sticker on the door of city buildings or businesses is not going to solve it. I believe the Hear Commissioners owe Councilmember Menchaca and their teen representative an apology. If council members or the public would like to view the Hear Commission meeting, it is on YouTube at Spectrum Channel 3. The lambasting of Councilmember Menchaca begins at the 1 hour, 12 minute, and 33-second point. The request to the minor commissioner was made at the 1 hour, 57 minute, and 52 point. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Andrew.
Good evening. I'm going to speak to the same subject. I was at the meeting. I don't know if the five of you had a chance to review the meeting. The whole All Are Welcome program was kind of taken by the council as all are welcome, right? This program that they're trying to do is inclusive to that community, right? It's not inclusive to an all are welcome. Kind of like the Stop Asian Hate was focused on the Asians, right? Now they're focusing on the LGBT community, right? So that was kind of where when the discussion at the last council meeting kind of went to, why isn't everyone welcome? Well, because it's a certain community that they're looking to welcome. When it comes to the youth ambassador, they asked her about including people from, she goes to Gabrielino. Gabrielino has I believe they call it the Gay Straight Alliance, right? So she kind of said, well, reach out to them because this community is targeted. And everybody knows it. They are targeted. It's been happening for, a long time. So that's what, they weren't forcing her. They were just making it, why don't you see if anybody wants to come? They didn't say, tell them to come. So it wasn't like they don't need to, they don't know. These children at Gabrielino are smart. Most of those kids are very intelligent. The two commissioners, Aaron and Callie, they're very intelligent young people. We have a sophomore and a senior in the high school. They can make their own decisions. Those children at Gabrielino can make their own decisions. They don't need to be forced. They don't have to feel bad if they don't come. They can make their own decision whether they want to come or not. But what I think the council missed is the whole point of this program. And then remember, you guys actually approved the work plan for the HEAR Commission, and that was part of the work plan for the HEAR Commission. So you have to take a good, deep look at it. I would suggest if you haven't seen the HEAR Commission meeting that day, you might want to take a look at it. I think they were focusing on Denise because Denise kind of mentioned that this bell belonged to the church. The bell doesn't belong to the church. The church has nothing to do with the bell, has nothing to do with the gay community. That's their own business, the mission, the church, and all that. That's where it kind of went towards the fact that saying, well, this bell belongs to them, and we have to, possibly get, approval from the church. We don't need approval for them for anything, right? Personally, myself, I would wish that mission and that city with the mission would be removed as our logo for this city, because if everybody looks in the history of that church and that religion, you'll find that is disgusting what they did there to the indigenous people of this community, what that religion's done to many children across the country. So just think about that. But that's what this whole program is not for everyone. It's specific for that community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have no more speaker cards.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to address the council at this time? We have one hand up.
Good evening. I wasn't intending to speak. I was actually here to celebrate those women who are being acknowledged tonight for Women's History Month, and I do want to take an opportunity to thank them for their contributions to San Gabriel and to continue to celebrate them. But obviously, as a member of the HEAR Commission, I do want to consider my thoughts and then speak on them again at the next meeting. But I will say that in addition to some of the points that were brought out by Karina Rivera, that the second leading cause of death for children 10 to 14 years old is suicide. The third leading cause of death among 15 to 24-year-olds is suicide. And for those who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning, they are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their peers. This is a real problem. It's a real problem in San Gabriel. It doesn't matter whether you think that San Gabriel is already inclusive enough, that it is already, the rainbow community that we all just kind of skip through. This is a real problem, and it is a real problem for those high school students that we might want to include in the discussion. So for people to stand here and somehow believe that because we don't allow them to express their views or that we don't bring it up to them, that this isn't stuff that is being discussed and considered and affecting their lives is really harmful and dangerous, and the reason why these students are committing harm against, are attempting suicide and having the problems that they have. So I will put together more thoughts because, quite frankly, what I hear tonight is quite shocking. It is the reason why I think we need this program in San Gabriel to answer the questions of, are we going to picket a business, boycott a business, bully a business because they choose not to place a decal on their window? Absolutely not. But we definitely think that those businesses that want to make it known to this community that they are welcome to be themselves inside their business, that they should be celebrated and applauded, and if they feel comfortable putting a decal to let others know that, then they should be allowed to do it. But no, this program has never been one that was mandated. It was never promoted as something that was mandated, but it is necessary. So again, as Andrew said, and I appreciate Andrew listening to the meetings and being thoughtful and actually coming and providing truthful information. Just like with the Stop Asian Hate program, there was a recognized need for a group that was being targeted out of proportion to other groups and in different ways. And if you listen to the news every day, you will see that this is a group that needs to be protected, that needs to be highlighted for the experiences that they are having. So thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else in the audience like to address council? Seeing none, I will close public comment at this time. Next item, please.
Consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar are considered routine, and recommendations will be approved in one motion unless a member of the city council or public requests separate discussion. We have received a request from the public to pull item 4B, and they would like to comment.
Or B as in boy? All right. Are there any council members like to pull any items?
I don't think I need to pull an item as such, but I just had a minor clarifying question for staff on item 4F. I don't know what the proper procedure is for that.
We can delay the vote if you want to ask a question. We can vote on all the items at once. I think we'll do the same thing for item B. That way we can have one vote for everything. So we can have a discuss. What's your question for B, and then we'll pull item, we'll do item B, and then we'll do Councilmember Chan's question.
All right, thank you.
We have a written comment, or is it someone that's in the audience?
Mr. Mayor, we have Andrew who would like to speak.
Okay. Come on up.
Good evening again. I wanted to speak to the consent calendar for this item B. I got a question, is the wood safety maintenance, we pay them $4,750 occasionally. I was just wondering, it's for graffiti removal. Now, do we get any type of restitution for, because I know we were focusing on that with our new code enforcement for graffiti. Are we seeing any type of people being asked to pay restitution when they're arrested for graffiti in our community? Mark, I mean, you can answer that, right, Mark?
Do you have any other questions beyond that? And the only reason I ask is normally the way public comment works is you ask your questions, and I
Okay.
don't want to eat into your 3 minutes.
Okay, so I do have another question. So I brought this up in the past, a couple of months ago. There was a couple of donations made to the San Gabriel Hope's Lion Club via John Wu. The two voucher numbers 141038 and 139948 for $900. There was one made a couple of months ago for $900, and then there was another one made now from this consent calendar on February the 16th. Now it says John Wu +2. Who are the +2? And what is that? Is that, who? Because, and the reason I bring it up is because this has been coming up across the nation where a lot of city council members and mayors, they start these nonprofit organizations so they can funnel money from the city to their basically kind of like what Trump did with his charitable contribution thing. They just kind of funnel it into their pockets and do as they please. But it is $900 that, like I said, a couple of months ago, and now we're doing it again on this consent calendar. So I would like to know who the +2 is, and I would like to know exactly where is this money going and what is it being used for? That's it.
Which page number is the $900 on?
I'm not sure. It's voucher number 141038. It shows as membership, 2023, 2024 membership to this San Gabriel Hope's Lion Club.
So, Andrew, those are, make sure I get my information right. Those are memberships for multiple council members. Rather than me try to remember who those two council members were, I can get back to you and provide a response to the council and the community on that. But because we only have so much space on our descriptions, you can see all of these items are very much abbreviated. Those are not donations to a charitable cause. Those are the annual membership fees for events or community organizations that the council has approved each other to belong to. So you'll see as you look through all of our vouchers, you'll see things for the Historical Society, for the Lions Club. You'll see earlier in this same warrants for a Hope Lions Club lunch, for the Sir Optimus Club lunch, all of those things. They're not donations, they're We're not allowed to use public funds for donations, so it's either for an annual membership or a specific conference or luncheon. And staff and the council work very hard to police that those funds are only spent for allowable uses. So I'm confident that was for the membership, but for those other two council members, I'd be happy to get that information. It is not $900 a year for one Lions Club membership. That's for two other council members as well.
So you said that we're not allowed to contribute money to, is that what you just said?
Not as a donation. It has to be for a membership or an attendance to an event or some sort of an actual, we're getting something for that. We cannot just use city taxpayer funds for donation.
And on the graffiti issue?
The graffiti issue, we do receive restitution. It is very, very infrequent, and it doesn't come anywhere close to the amount of not only money we spend with Woods, but also with our staff time and police time involved. It doesn't come anywhere close, as you can imagine, to reimbursing the city.
I guess the reason I asked that is just to maybe kind of deter it, right? If they're getting charged some money.
I'm sorry, but this is not supposed to be a back and forth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Chan?
Okay.
First of all, which item was it?
Was that?
Which item?
Yes. Item 4F.
Or F, as in Frank?
Yes. F as in Frank. And maybe this might be a Will question for finance. It's the issue of the memorandum of agreement with the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments for the Active Streets Mission to Mission event. Maybe I'm looking at red page 2 and just trying to understand maybe Will, do you want to come up? Just, or Greg question? Maybe it's a Greg question. Thank you. I'm just trying to understand the math of the way it's presented. So to put on this event, the city is obligated to put up $15,000 in staff time. And then it says then $10,000 will be reimbursed to the city. Does that mean the net city expense is $5,000, or is that the math?
Hello, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Greg DeVink, Public Works Director. And to answer that question, it is kind of confusing. The way it works is our obligation is $15,000 of in-kind services, which is mostly staff labor towards the event.
Okay.
That $15,000 is a qualifying expense for TDA funds, for which we have a pool of money to draw from, so it won't cost us general fund dollars. That's the only thing we can get reimbursed for. That would for the first 15. There's an additional $10,000 if we spent up to 25 on this event that could be reimbursable from the COG, Coalition of Governments, through the Metro grant. It could also be an additional qualifying expense for the TDA fund. So out of our pocket should be zero if we use the TDA funds that are already in our reserve. It is spending some grant money that's already awarded to us.
Okay, but, so it's not 15,000 minus the 10,000? It's, you're saying there's
No.
15,000 that we have to do in staff time?
Yes. Our
Plus,
share-
if we spend another 10,000 more, that piece gets reimbursed?
Yes. We have to commit 15. That is our city's obligation. South Pasadena and Alhambra have to commit more. They're a larger participant. So the 15 we commit in-kind services that can be drawn from our TDA grant to get the money back. We'll spend that grant money.
Okay, but
If we
but
go
that is-
beyond 15, up to another 10 could be reimbursable through the COG of the Metro grant funds that they received for this event.
I see. Okay, thank you. It's kind of convoluted a little bit, but thanks.
Is that all?
Any further questions?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the full consent agenda.
We have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Menchaca, second by Vice Mayor Wu. Let's vote, please. You like it, Tony? You voting no, or yeah? Strong
Motion
comment.
passes by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Public hearing A, extension of interim ordinance number 701 regarding the temporary moratorium prohibiting the establishment of medicinal cannabis delivery businesses and an exemption from the California Environmental Quality Act.
1 second here. Thank you. I will open the public hearing. Planning Manager Samantha Tuassard will make the staff presentation.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. The item before you this evening is a request to extend interim urgency ordinance number 701. As the council is aware, Senate Bill 1186, the Medicinal Cannabis Patients' Right to Access Act, took effect January 1st of this year. And in order to provide the city time to adopt reasonable regulations, the City Council on January 16th of this year adopted interim urgency ordinance number 701, establishing a 45-day temporary moratorium. On January 8th of this year, the Planning Commission reviewed the proposed ordinance amending Chapter 153, the zoning code regarding medicinal cannabis delivery-only retailers, and recommended approval of the draft ordinance to the City Council. Then on February 6th, the City Council reviewed and considered the proposed ordinance number 702 and continued the matter to the February 20th regular City Council meeting to allow for additional time to address the comments provided at the meeting. The second reading for the ordinance 702 is on tonight's council agenda on consent, and it will take effect 30 days from the date of adoption. In order to have adequate time for the ordinance to take effect and to establish the review fees for the new administrative application process, that was a question asked by Councilmember Machaca at the previous council meeting. The request is for an additional 3-month extension of the ordinance, of this urgency ordinance. The government code allows an additional 10 months, 15 days extension following public notification and a public hearing. This extension request was noticed in the San Gabriel Sun on February 15th. A new ordinance is not required for this extension. The City Council only needs to take action to extend the existing ordinance 701 by a 4/5 vote. And so with that, staff's recommendation before the City Council is to approve this extension of the interim urgency ordinance by a 4/5 votes. And this concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you much. Do we have any technical questions or considerations, questions? All right, 0 for 5. All right, do we have any public comment?
I have no speaker cards.
Are there any members of the public present that'd like to make comment? Seeing none, I will now close the public hearing. Do we have any deliberation or discussion? All right, 0 for 5 again. Now we'll vote on that. We'll have a motion, if we can entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Move to,
The staff recommendation.
we have a motion to adopt.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Chan and a second by Councilmember Menchaca. Please vote.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Next item, please.
We have no continued business. The next item is new business item A, public opinion poll results on public safety headquarters, property tax, and business tax modernization. Richard Bernard of FM3 will make the presentation.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, while Mr. Bernard is making his way to the podium, I just wanted to spend 1 minute to remind everybody how we got to this point with him presenting the results. We were looking at many ways to increase our revenues or to figure out how to pay for a public safety headquarters, whether it's just a police facility or a police and a fire facility. We're looking at all options, whether it's a tax or a bond measure, whether we can afford it with ongoing city revenues or any other options that there are. And so in late last year, we kicked off or commissioned a poll of our likely registered voters in the November election. And Mr. Bernard's firm did that poll. Rather than have it just disappear without the public or the council hearing the results, you're going to find out at the end of his presentation that it doesn't look like we are able to move forward in November, but I do believe there's a lot of good information in the results that we found, not only in where we're heading as a city, but also in next steps if we're looking to do something in November of 2026 or looking at other options for the city. So this will be the one of many conversations that we have throughout the budget process and over the next couple of years, but we did want to put a kind of a formal end to the polling part of this event. So thank you, Richard.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and staff. Thank you for inviting me to present the results of your residents' opinion survey. We conducted the survey between December 3rd and the 20th of last year. It was a dual mode survey, which means a random portion of respondents took the survey on phone and a random portion of the respondents took the survey online. In fact, 52% took the survey online and 48% on the phone. We interviewed a random sample of 365 City of San Gabriel voters who are likely to vote in the November 2024 election based on their past voter history or if they've recently registered to vote. For questions asked of everyone, the margin of error is plus or minus 5.2. In some cases, we had a very long list of questions, or we wanted to test items in various sort of forms, different framings. So we took a random half the sample and separated them out and asked them certain questions, and the other half got other questions, and there the margin of error is a little larger at 7.4. We contacted your residents by telephone, email, and text. And we had the fortune to conduct a survey in May of 2019 on behalf of the city, which ultimately resulted in a sales tax measure that was successful on the ballot. And so where we asked questions that were similar, we thought we would track the data to show you some similarities or differences over time. This current survey was offered in English, Chinese, and Spanish. And if you're very quick on math and notice something doesn't quite equal 100%, I blame that entirely on rounding error. So I want to start a little bit by giving you some kind of sense of the mood of your electorate and perceptions of city organizations. So first off, we asked folks if they thought things in the city were generally headed in the right direction or if they thought things were off on the wrong track. You could see on the left-hand side are the responses for the 2019 survey. They're a little bit more than half said right direction, 25% said wrong track. And then cut to 2023 at the end of the year, there were virtually no differences. So in spite of COVID and the 40-year high cost of living, there's pretty good consistency in terms of opinions about favorable views of the direction of the city. At this particular time, comparatively to other cities, where many of them we see underwater in terms of greater percentage of people think wrong track versus right direction, your city stands quite strong in terms of a favorable view of the direction of the city. We then gave them a random list of city organizations and departments, and we asked them if they had favorable or unfavorable opinions about those organizations or departments. If they had never heard of them or they heard of them and couldn't rate, we asked them to tell us that instead. The dark blue is the very favorable, the bright blue is somewhat favorable. I've aggregated the total favorable on the right-hand side, and then the dull orange and the bright orange are somewhat unfavorable and very unfavorable, again aggregated on the right-hand side, and the gray are the folks who couldn't give us a rating in any way. And as you could see, in these cases, these 4 items, we asked these same questions in 2019, so it's kind of an interesting comparison across time. And you can see in the cases of the fire department, I've been doing this for more than 20 years. In every city I've ever done a question like this, the fire department always ranks number 1. It doesn't, people love their fire departments. Your city is no exception. The police, strong favorable ratings of 78 to 12, and they were statistically consistent with 2019. No changes there, which is unusual in many cities. The opinions of police are still high, but since the Minneapolis events with George Floyd, those numbers in some communities have gone down, and yet your numbers are fairly consistent between 2019 and 2023. The only organization that bumped up in terms of favorable numbers was the government overall. In 2019, the favorable numbers were 49%, they're now 57%. At a day and time in which the word government is not considered favorably in general by people, doesn't matter which level of government, you still seem to be appreciated by your community, and you have about a 3-to-1 favorable to unfavorable number, which is a very good number to have. And as for the council, still consistent numbers, almost a 2-to-1 ratio of favorable to unfavorable, but you'll notice your numbers are not as high because you have a little bit more than a third of the folks who just don't know enough about the council to rate them. So I guess you should provide them with more information so they know more about you. Before we get into my charge, which was to test the viability of a couple of ballot initiatives that you may or may not consider in the future, I wanted to ask a conceptual question. Do they even think that the city needs additional funds to provide the level of city services that San Gabriel residents need and want? Again, I asked this question in 2019. You can see the results on the left-hand side. We offered them the option of great need, some need, a little need, or no real need, or they volunteered that they didn't know. And you could see this is just prior to your sales tax, 68% at the time said there was a great or some need. In 2023, in December of this past year, you had 72%, statistically the same, who said there was a great or some need. So in spite of the successful sales tax and all that you're doing in the city, they perceive there is a need, though the perception of great need is modest, particularly since one of the measures I was testing was a 2/3 measure. And so you would anticipate for a 2/3 measure to be successful, there has to be a greater perception of need. They have to understand what's going on and why you folks perceive that there is additional need for funds. So I'd like to start with the first measure we asked about in the survey. And this was the what we framed as the San Gabriel Public Safety 911 Emergency Protection Measure. And this, by the way, was reviewed by legal counsel. For the, not ultimately it will be the council, you folks will decide whether or not to deliberate or whether or not to place it on the ballot. However, my charge was to test something, so I did. So I worked with your city staff to get clarity as to the kinds of projects you wanted. And we tested a $60 million bond. Your financial folks gave me this information. That's sort of not my area. And it was $30 per 100,000th of assessed value, generating about $2.1 million annually. We read this to them if they were on phone, or they read it if they were on online, and we asked them if there were an election held today, would you vote yes in favor or no to oppose, with just simply looking at ballot title and summary. If they said they would vote yes in favor, we asked them, is that definitely or probably, because we want to know the intensity of support, i.e. the percentage of people who are likely to say definitely yes. If they said no, we asked them definitely or probably no, because we want to know the intensity of the opposition. That is the percentage of people who are definitely saying, I'm not voting for this, at least initially as such. And if they were undecided, we pushed them a little, and we said, well, would you lean yes or would you lean no? If they said they'd lean yes, we put them in the yes camp, no in the no camp. And in this particular measure, 13% said that they were still undecided and needed to know more. So on the initial vote for this 2/3 measure, 46% said they would vote yes, 41% no, 13% were undecided. If I look a little bit deeper at the numbers, the definitely yes is just way too low on the initial vote historically for a successful 2/3 measure at only a quarter. And the definitely no is not so bad, because I usually see about a floor of about 20% on ballot initiatives on the initial ask. But the vote is very soft, and as you could see, with a margin of error about 5.2, if I do a simple math of saying 5, and I look at that 46% yes, If at the high end of the of successful measure, it would be at 51%. At the low end, it would be 41%. Way too low for a two-thirds measure. Opposition needs only a third to be successful. Supporters need two-thirds plus one to be successful. So at least on the initial vote, it did not look viable. We asked them, we then gave them a list of items that could be funded by the bond or aspirational outcomes that could occur as a result of the bond money being spent. And we said, regardless of whether you support the measure or not, how important would it be to you to include this feature or provision in the measure? And we gave them the option of extremely important, which is a dark blue, very important, which is a mid-color blue, and somewhat important, which is the dullest of the blues. And the orange are the folks who said it was not too important, and the little sliver of gray are the folks who said they didn't know. I've aggregated the extremely and very important on the right-hand side, and I ranked it as such. And you could see that the items, there were 21 items, and I'm showing you 5 of them were in the 80s in terms of extremely or very important, and 7 in the 70s. So you have some items in terms of higher than two-thirds, and this would help us recommend how we would draft a better ballot question. But you'll notice that all the top items are aspirational outcomes. They're not about what the money would be spent with respect to the bond. The preventing crime, recruiting and retaining qualified firefighters and paramedics, maintaining fire medical emergency response, keeping public areas safe and clean. Those are all a result of your intended the consequences of actually passing this bond and building the buildings and buying the equipment that you so desperately need. So as you go down the list, again, most of these items are aspirational outcomes, and it's only at the end of the list of these and others where we find that the buildings are the ones that score the lowest. People want, and this is not unusual to your city, people want the outcomes, the services, the great services that are provided. They want the skilled paramedics, fire, police officers. They want all of that, but they are less interested in the buildings. You know, the things that they actually, and sometimes the equipment, the things that these folks actually need to do their fine work, but they want their fine work. And that is a consequence that we're seeing in the context of this measure, and helps partly explain why it's not as successful as certainly some people would hope. I'll get back to a discussion a little bit in the summary. I did want to move on to the business license tax, which was my other charge. In this case, it's a general purpose measure, and as you would know, that a general purpose measure is a 50+1 measure, and that the money ultimately goes into the general fund, and it's at the discretion of the council as to how they would spend it. But we can, in the ballot question, provide illustrative examples of how the money could be used. There's certain legal requirements, as there was in the last one, of what has to be incorporated into the ballot question, and your legal counsel also reviewed it. In this case, it was establishing a business license rate between 0.15% to 0.35%, which would generate approximately $1.6 million annually to the general fund. So again, we asked this question if they were on the phone, or they read it if they were online. And if there were an election today, 56% would vote yes in favor, 27 no to oppose, and 18% were undecided. If I use that margin of error test, and let me do simple math of 5%, looking at the 56, on the high end it would be 61, and at the low end it would be 51 for a 50+1 measure. Now, the definitely yes is soft, but if I put it in context of the survey, we had been talking for about 16 minutes on the public safety bond, and then we switched to another measure. And in some cases, there's a little bit of a fatigue. Like the best possible survey focuses on one ballot initiative, but because you had an interest in two, we were able to at least get a sort of a snapshot on level of support. Had this been first, it may have actually scored a little higher. And I want to sort of explain why I say that. You may recall earlier in the presentation, I asked a question about whether they thought there was a need for additional funds in the city. If people said there was a great or some need, they were voting, the blue bar is the total yes, the orange is the total no, and the gray is the undecided. On this initial business license tax vote that we asked, if I perceive there's a great or some need, 62% are voting yes on this measure, 22 are voting opposed. If I think there's a little or no real need, support is 39%, opposition is 53%. And it's lower, and if I don't know, it's just at 40% and a high undecided. This tells me public outreach is really important to explain the need and also explain the potential ballot question if you choose to move forward. And that's frankly true of the public safety measure as well. They need to understand why this is important and what contribution it can lead to the city. We also went back and asked some additional priorities. You may remember I asked about public safety items in the public safety bond measure. In this case, because it was a general purpose measure, I asked a number of items that could be used, this money could be used from. It would go in the general fund, and ultimately, again, you folks would decide how it should be spent. So again, I gave the option of extremely important, very important, somewhat important, and I've aggregated the extremely or very important on the right-hand side. And you'll notice there aren't really public safety items here because I already know some of them score very high in the other part of the survey. So we tested some other items that money could be used from the general fund. And you could see a lot of high items and diverse items here, protecting local drinking water sources, repairing streets and potholes. Certainly after the additional rains we've had since the survey, many of the cities that I work for have told me that potholes are even worse than they were before. And I know you get money from Metro with respect to Measure M, R, Prop A, and Prop C, but it's never enough. It can't be. It's just never enough. Ensuring all businesses pay their fair share for city services was people reacted very strongly to maintaining parks, addressing homelessness, and attracting and retaining businesses. Clearly, many of these things have a nexus with the success of businesses in your community. And so, in conclusion, just general views of the city by a 2-to-1 ratio. Respondents have a favorable impression about the direction of the city, and unlike most of the cities that I work for, and I work for a lot of cities, you've been able to retain that favorable impression in spite of the fact there are a lot of serious issues going on these days, including crime, cost of housing, cost of living, and issues around affordable housing. High percentages have favorable views of the city's public safety officers. Favorable views about the city government have increased since 2019, which is very unusual, so kudos to you folks. Almost 3/4 perceive that the city has a need for at least some funds, but that great need perception is low. And that's something that needs to be addressed if the city is interested in pursuing a potential revenue measure moving forward. With respect to the public safety bond, at least at this time, at this point, the 2/3 measure does not appear to be viable. I'm someone who comes to council meetings. I'm not hired to be a gun for hire. I just tell you what the data says. I felt that the sales tax when I came in 2019 was viable and that you had a roadmap to be successful. In this case, it's not. It's not there yet, but there are opportunities, and I'm going to suggest some things for you to consider moving forward in a moment. Support was much stronger for the services and recruiting and attracting the personnel. They love firefighters, they love police officers in the city, and they love the services they do. Less interested in the police station, the fire station, which is ultimately your goal in this measure. Recommendations, I would say, the results help you fine-tune your public safety plan, at least from the view of the residents of the city. Go out and, if you're interested, and educate the public. They need to know more about why this is important. I understand that the city manager has talked to you quite often about the potential for the statewide ACA 1 measure on the November ballot, which would drop the requirement from 2/3 to 55% for potential bricks and mortar bond-type measures that you are considering, and it might be an alternative path for 2016 if it's successful. And then do that outreach and survey close to 2026 to see if you've moved the needle, because these surveys help you minimize the risk of going on, placing a measure on the ballot that doesn't have an opportunity to be successful. In terms of the business license tax, I'll remind you that the business license tax was tested after that lengthy discussion about the public safety bond, which at this time is not strong enough, and some folks were not supportive of it. A slight majority would initially vote yes on the business license tax. They clearly have priorities in the city, and if you choose not even to move forward on any of these things, the priorities in this survey are really helpful in budget deliberations. How often do you get to hear, from a statistical point of view, what your voters are interested in? And what I've really noticed in your survey is that in your survey for your city is that the voters' perceptions of importance nicely mirror the importance of the council. Tells me you're listening to them and you get it. And so it's reflected in the issue of the importance of public safety, the importance of local drinking water sources, repairing streets, and addressing homelessness. For them, those are among the top items. A general purpose business license tax, transparency tax equity measure could be viable if efforts are made by the city to educate its residents about the funding needs, that the measure protects small local businesses. And I've just sat through a beautiful presentation to your local business folks about how much you value small businesses, and they need to know this is protecting them, and that the tax will ensure all businesses pay their fair share because they all rely on a variety of city services. And with that, thank you for your patience, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Do we have any factual questions or anything to clarify from council?
Not a question as much as just an observation. In the presentation on page 5, the city's public safety, the favorable versus not views of city government. I see that in 2019, in 2019, I wasn't involved in city government, and I wasn't on city council, and now I am. So I'm taking credit for that differential. So thank you.
2%, really?
Hey, that's going up. Better than going down.
2%. No,
thank you. Very well done. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
do we get credit for the other 40 divided by 4, so 10 each? All right, that's it. No other questions? Easy. Man, you guys are easy tonight. Yeah. Do we have any public comment on this, City Clerk?
We do, Mr. Mayor. Andrew.
All right.
Good evening again. This survey here didn't really give me much information personally, I don't think. I would have liked to have seen the actual questions that were asked. But I did my own survey. I started back in September asking neighbors and residents and businesses. None of the businesses, not one business said they're okay with having their taxes go up. A couple of them even showed me, look, let me show you what I pay every year. And so that's what they felt. Most of the people don't even know that we want to build a new police station or public service headquarters. So I think that's where we're missing the ball. We're not getting the information out to them. They don't even know. They're like, well, what are we going to build? And I'm like, I don't know. Nobody knows. They just know. I just told them, they want $60 million. And a lot of them would ask the question, well, I thought the hotel tax was going to pay for that. And I said, yeah, so did I. And I thought that Measure SG was going to pay for that. And I said, so did I. I said, well, where did all the money from Measure SG go? I said, it went into the pockets of the employees, and they're taking it out of the city, as opposed to the little YouTube video that San Gabriel put out saying that the money's going to stay here in the city. It's not staying here in the city. It's going in the pockets of the employees, and they're taking it because most of them don't live here. A couple of questions that did come up was, how much is the true value of a $60 million bond going to cost us? Because that's just what we're borrowing. How much is the final payment going to be, the final amount? And of course, that depends on the interest rate. The other thing was, no one knows, there's no information on how long is this bond measure going to be for. You know, and typically bond measures are 30 years or so, 25, 30-year bonds. So nobody knows this information. So what I think is the information needs to get out on what we want to do about this police station, our public safety headquarters. And, you know, the other thing is, you know, we spend a lot of money for this. I was against hiring FM3 because they charge us, you know, $12,000 more than the lower one that was going to do probably the same research. But everybody probably knows them, so, you know, sometimes it's, that's what happens when you're buddies with a certain company. They kind of get a monopoly, and they're like, kind of like Athens and so on. The whole question about the water safety, what do? We don't deal anything with the water safety, right? We have water companies that do that, right? That's not really, doesn't come out of our budget, correct? I mean, I'm asking the question. You could answer it later. Like I said, the big deal was people didn't feel comfortable giving this city government $60 million. And, you know, I'll just read from the state auditor's report. San Gabriel does not monitor contract costs or ensure it receives the best value for its procurements. And that's straight out of the state auditor's report.
Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to address council at this time? Seeing none, I'll close public comment on this item. That means it's time for council deliberation. Councilmember Chaka.
Oh, yes, I just wanted to know from our city manager, what are the next steps here? What are we doing what are we going to do next? Are we going to have a separate meeting to talk about strategies? Because I think this is very valuable. It's a starting point, needs to be updated, obviously, because things do change. So could you share that with us?
Thank you, Mayor Harrington and council. I'd be more than happy, Councilwoman Chaka, to answer that question. And the next immediate step is to talk about the business license tax, which we talked about a few meetings ago. We talked about whether we wanted to do anything at all with that tax, whether we wanted to modernize it, make sure that we're not paying or requiring our big businesses to pay less than our small businesses on a pro rata share. Our finance director has been working with the company we use for our business license analysis, and we'll be coming back at one of our next couple of meetings with roadmap for that business license tax. The polling results are very useful for that tax and deciding what we would need to be successful in that outcome. That wouldn't be necessarily looked at as revenue generating, as we all discussed at our last meeting. The amount that generates is not a lot. It would be more about streamlining it and modernizing it, and it wouldn't be used as a way to fund a police station. For the police and fire facility, it's going to take meetings with council and the community, and I think Andrew brought up some of the points that we are exactly going to address through that. We have not told the community at all about that need. They drive by that building and they see, you know, the brick building from the outside. They don't know what it looks like from the inside. You have all toured it. You know that our jail is full of boxes because it isn't suitable for holding folks. We have folks that are crammed, you know, 4 or 5 people into a room that when it was designed to hold 1 or 2. The workout facilities aren't adequate. All of the things that we could talk about. It wasn't designed for, you know, as many female and officers as we currently have. So in numerous ways it needs to be fixed. But we needed to find out what would be that path for moving forward. And so we need to address that to the community. It's also very clear that the community doesn't really care about that building unless they know how it results in outcomes. We're doing such a good job, and it's thanks to the leadership of you all in keeping our officers and our firefighters happy and in the city and working hard, and our response times are phenomenal, better than any of the cities around us. So the public hasn't seen a need for us to, invest so heavily in that building, they look at it as though we're doing great things without a new building. And so all that to say, the next steps are going to be figuring out if we can afford it without a bond, what it looks like, whether it's a brand-new facility, whether it's, looking at things like buildings in our city that are underutilized because of remote work, or working with the county on Lincoln School. I'm kind of just making stuff up that we haven't vetted out, but these are the things that we would vet out. And then we would present that to the community. This is how we analyze it. This is the least expensive, most cost-effective way of doing it. This is what the cost would be, and this is how much it would cost per resident, or we would use existing funds and take out a loan, and we would present that to the council and the community. That's a lengthy process. It's not something that will happen, in the next couple of months before the budget, but it's going to be several conversations over the next few years. And then, depending on what happens in November with ACA 1, if there is a possibility of having some sort of a measure, maybe it's only half of the cost of building the facility. Maybe the city is able to use existing revenues, and we educate the public on that, and we're able to present a more concrete analysis. So it's going to come to the council over the next several months, and it's a long-term project, and I'll be working with the council and the community and the employees to remind them that this isn't something that we're going to adopt in June with our budget and then hire an architect in July and start building a facility.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other council members with questions or deliberation? Vice Mayor Wu.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Richard, thank you so much for the presentation. So how many actual people that you have reached out and get this result? What is the percentage of returning rate?
I don't have that here, how many calls that were made, but I can tell you how many likely voters there are, and we most likely we probably ended up trying to reach as many as we could. There's about close to 16,500 likely November 2024 voters. So the chances are we made calls or emails to a large percentage of those to be able to get completed surveys of 365.
So that is like a very small percentage that people
It is, but it's statistically representative of your community. We made sure that the demographics of the respondents mirrored the likely November demographics by age, by self-identified race and ethnicity, by party registration, by gender. So those are efforts we made to make sure that they were represented.
So for those 365 interviews that you have conducted,
Yes,
they complete the whole entire questionnaires and
Correct.
survey.
correct. If someone went halfway through and stopped for whatever reason, we did not include it as a completed survey.
I see. So usually how frequent this kind of survey should be conducted? Every 4 years, every 2 years? Is that like what is the better pictures that if we would like to see the change or something newer? For example, if our city will be doing a little bit more outreach to the community.
Sure.
Then we have, so what is a better time frame if we will need to do it? Maybe not 2026, but would that be like another 4 years or even longer?
Well, part of it would be what your strategic plan is and also how you intend to outreach to the community. So if the city manager says maybe it's a long-term project, maybe the council will, I'm again hypothesizing, you'll have this conversation over a number of months or maybe 6 months, and maybe if you're not going to go in 2024 because the data doesn't suggest you should, maybe you'll start doing outreach for 2 years. And just before an election, you will want to come back to see if you've moved the needle. If you make no effort to the community to tell the story, you shouldn't expect there to be a different outcome. So I don't know if that's helpful. So specifically, your question was about how often should you be testing or doing a survey. If it's specifically about this, then I'd say you need to do some outreach, and then you want to be able to identify an election that you think might be an appropriate one, and then I would retest it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. No questions? Councilmember Ding?
Yeah, it's a continued question that Vice Mayor asking. So this phone call is orders for the landline or cell phone?
It's disproportionate. People use cell phones. It's mostly cell phones.
Most of the you use the cell phone.
As a matter of fact, so I could tell you 48% of them were on the phone, of which 66% were on a cell phone.
Okay.
So that means 34% were on landlines.
The cell phone, how do you verify? But landline, you can make sure they are, that you call the San Gabriel resident, right?
Yes,
That target, okay. For the cell phone, how do you know they're
on a cell phone.
Yeah, it's the resident.
Well, what we do is we go to we have a sample vendor that gets updated information about your registered voters on a weekly or monthly basis. So we know that the folks we're contacting have registered to vote in your city specifically.
Okay.
And then we look at their past voter history, or if they've recently registered to vote, to assess whether they are likely to vote in November of 2024. So let's say I've been a registered voter for 20 years, but I've never voted. They wouldn't have been called.
Okay. All right. And another thing is, it's for our city, it's also a lot of the new immigrant, like they speak Latino, Chinese, or Vietnamese.
Yep.
So do you have this kind of person to talk to them?
We do.
Go and do the survey?
7% chose to take the survey in Chinese, and 3% chose to take it in Spanish.
Okay.
And they had an option, as to what language they were the most comfortable to respond in, and that's what they did.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure, my pleasure.
I think I have no questions. Yeah, so this is just to receive and file. So I think we're done. Next item, please. Thank you.
Item B, ordinance number 703, renewing and approving the San Gabriel Police Department's updated military equipment use policy 707, and finding that the annual military equipment report is in compliance with Government Code 7072A. Police Lieutenant Renee Lopez will make the presentation.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. Thank you for having me here. My name is Renee Lopez. I'm a police lieutenant with our police department. I'm here to present on ordinance number 703, renewing and approving the San Gabriel Police Department's updated military equipment use policy 707, and finding that the annual military equipment report is in compliance with Government Code 7072A. Introduction. On August 16th, 2022, the City Council adopted ordinance number 684, approving a military equipment use policy pursuant to Assembly Bill 481. In accordance with legislation and the policy, a military equipment report must be submitted to the City Council annually for each type of military equipment approved within 1 year of approval, and annually thereafter for as long as the military equipment is available for use. Staff has reviewed ordinance number 684, the San Gabriel Police Department Lexible Policy 707, and Government Code 7070 through 7075. After review, an annual report was created updating our Lexible Policy 707. During that analysis, it detailed the following. 1, how equipment was used and the purpose of use. 2, complaints and concerns, 3, internal audits, 4, total costs and funding sources, 5, the quantity of our inventory, 6, any request for new military equipment. We had also mentioned that the San Gabriel Police Department has acquired an armored rescue vehicle that was approved by the governing body of the city of San Gabriel, but that will be updated in the 2023-2024 annual report. It is our recommendation that the city council review and approve AB 481 annual report and the updated policy 707, and by majority vote, renew, introduce, and conduct the first reading by title only of ordinance number 703, readopting the policy, waiving future readings, and to schedule the second reading and adoption for the next regular council meeting. We have given a public presentation at the San Gabriel Hear Commission meeting. And since our Hear Commission meeting, we have reviewed our policy and have amended the report to add training for the different items that are in our inventory. Once this is approved, if it is approved, we will update our lexible policy as need be. Thank you very much. Any further questions?
Thank you. All right, do we have any actual questions for the presentation?
Yes, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Wu.
Well, thank you very much, Sergeant Lopez. In the report, that under number 2 on page 2, complaints and concerns, that it was mentioned that the San Gabriel PD had not sought authorization to use rifle ammunition for the Department of Patrol rifle. This issue's been, is that been resolved? Are we able to use rifle now? Is San Gabriel Police Department is fully authorized to use this weapon?
Thank you for that question. And in regards to Government Code 770 through 7075, under the current law enacted by AB 481, law enforcement agencies are required to include specialized firearms and ammunition of less than 50 caliber, including assault weapons as defined in sections 3510 and 3515 of the Penal Code, with the exception of standard issue service weapons and ammunition of less than 50 caliber that are issued to officers, agents, or employees of law enforcement agencies or a state agency. So our rifles are standard issued to our police officers, and under AB 481 and the legislation, we are not required to report them unless new legislation is updated.
Thank you. And could you please update the status of 2 purchased UAVs?
So the city is looking to purchase 3 unarmed aerial vehicles. And I believe they are drones, as you know, the public would like to call them. Yes.
So we are looking for purchase, or we already have that ordered?
We are looking to purchase. It is right now under review, and to see what drones are out there right now to see what would best fit our needs for the city.
Thank you. And how many officers will be obtaining the FAA license and authorized to operate the UAVs?
Chief?
Thank you, sir. Because we're in the initial stages of the program, we haven't gone that far with the program as far as who would manage it, who would supervise it, and then how many operators we would have. Just speaking out loudly, more than likely it would be managed by a lieutenant, supervised by a sergeant, and possibly 4 to 6 operators.
So for this annual report, do we have any designated officers just specialized doing conduct the whole report?
No, we do not, but part of the report requires the police department to at least project future needs and future purchases. The drones would be a purchase made in the future.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Nobody? All right, seeing no more questions from council, we will go to public comment.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Andrew.
I spoke to this a few times already. I have some information for the council members. I only have 4, so a couple of you are going to have to share. The issue that I've had is the policy that was originally written and was approved back in July of 2022 did not include everything that was actually on the bill, the Assembly bill itself. And if you look at the very top page of the Assembly bill, if you go to page 3, Section D, that has 7 bullet points there that should be on the policy, right? And there's a difference between the policy and the report, of course. And I'll just talk to John about it because the rest of you, so I'm just addressing one person. So if you look at page 7.3 of 3 on the bill, the first, because there's three things here. There's the Assembly bill, our policy, and I gave an example, the policy 706 from Alhambra, so you can see what I'm talking about. So if you look on page 3, go down to the middle of section D, it says military equipment use policy means the public release written document governing the use of military equipment by a law enforcement agency or state agency that addresses, at a minimum, all of the following. And there's 7 bullet points right there that I highlighted. You see that, John? Yep. Okay, so
that.
those 7 bullet points have to be on our policy. Now, I'm a little confused now because Renee mentioned that once you approve the report, that they'll update the policy. So is the policy that was on the staff report, is that the policy updated already or no? You understand what I'm saying? The staff report that was presented to the public for this item.
Repeat the question?
Okay, so what Renee said at the end of it, he said, once you approve the report, that the policy will be updated, right? That's how you stated it, correct? Now, the policy that was on the staff report, is that the updated policy, or are they gonna change it? Because if that is that gonna be updated, then it needs to include all those 7 items.
So the update would be from the 2022-23 to 23-24 policy, is that what we're talking about?
Well, because every year, there's basically an update of the policy if there's any kind of changes. It has to be updated, right?
Yeah, I don't see proposed changes in this policy, though the policy itself, I don't believe is changing.
Well, okay, so that's the issue then. The policy doesn't include all these 7 items. Our original policy that was approved, if you look, I gave you a copy of it there, it doesn't include those 7 items. That's the issue that I've had now for 2 years with this policy. It doesn't include that. Now, the other thing that I have too is, now the report is supposed to be a public report that's, I'm gonna go beyond.
No, it's
it.
agendized, we can go, it's all right. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the report itself is supposed to be publicly presented, right? What was presented at the Hear Commission was not the same thing that was on the agenda. The new report is different, so now we have to go back to the public presentation of this policy, of the report, because what was reported at the Hear Commission is not the same as what's on the agenda that is showed at the staff report. So there's a difference here.
So this is the public presentation. The Hear Commission is for consultation. The City Council is where we have to present
Okay,
something.
so we haven't presented the report. We need to present it. I think they need to present it, because they're not presenting the report.
It's in the materials available to the public.
So-
You wanted to read through the report publicly? Is that what
Well,
you're
so
saying?
we could discuss it, because that's what the report is all about. If you read the way that it is laid out, it says on here that there should be, a public forum for us to discuss this. It says lack of a public forum to discuss the acquisition of military equipment jeopardizes relationship of police have with the community. I mean, that's part of, so what I'm saying is, I read through the report myself personally, right? So I have, and I'm the only one that's ever made issue of it. You know, I've been called a Ken and all kinds of other weird names now. Why do I care? Because it's important. But, so that's my understanding. The policy, if you read our policy, and that's on the second, that's the second, if you know, the second item that I gave to you, John.
I have it.
Okay, so you see how our policy does not include, it says right on the very first one, description of each military equipment, the quantity sought, its capability, expected lifespan, the product description. It doesn't have all that on the policy. That's just the one item, and then it goes on and on. Now, if you look at the third item that I gave you, the larger packet. If you go to page 7. Actually, that's Hammer's policy, right? Go to page 6, starts at page 6 and it's page 7. That just goes over the assault weapons. That is what should be in our policy. Our policy doesn't have that in it. You understand what I'm saying? It needs to have the training that we do. What the training, there's a lot of things in our policy that are not on our policy. So we can't approve it. You know, back in 2022, what was approved should not have been approved. You understand what I'm saying, John?
I understand what you're saying. That doesn't mean I agree with what you're saying. So.
Okay, well, you don't have to agree with it, but like I'm saying, the law itself says what should be in the policy. Does our policy have that in it? I don't see it. Do you? Are you looking at?
So are you saying, are you trying to compare us to the Alhambra policy or just the law? I think we've complied with the law. We've said what we have. We've complied with everything the law requires.
Okay, well, it says right here, okay, the expected lifespan, on our policy, none of it says what the expected lifespan is, right? None of it says, you know, there's a lot in here that is not on there. That's what I'm trying to say. There's nothing in there that says the legal procedure and rules that govern each authorized use. There's none of that in the policy. That needs to be in the policy.
So look at page 15 of the council items. It does have lifespans in there of each item when you go through it.
You're talking about what's on for the agenda order, or for the agenda for today?
Correct.
Okay, I don't have that with me. But if you notice, there's only one item, the assault weapons, that has the lifespan. Okay, now go to some of the other equipment. Go over to page 20. Where's the lifespan on that one? Right? Go to page 19 and 20, where we have more of the inventory there. There's no lifespan there. It doesn't have it on there. But that's the report. That's not the policy. That's what you're
Well, the report is an attachment to the policy because the policy sets out the guides of how to do things. This is the inventory part of the policy.
No, this is the annual report. There's a difference between the annual report and the policy.
Of course.
Okay? If you're gonna take it as one, that's fine, but what I'm saying is, the policy, it states on the bill what should be in the policy. It states in the bill on 772 what should be in the report. So there are two different things that you're talking about here. I'm talking about the policy right now. And that's it. I'm not even gonna go over this anymore. It's just nerve-wracking for me personally, because, you know, there's a part in the law that talks about the reason for this law, and that's the reason why I kind of got involved in it, you know, because there's a reason for why we need to discuss this amongst the public. Here you go, Ms. Marilyn.
Thank you.
But you can see if you go to page 19 or 20, there's no lifespan in there for that piece of equipment. Doesn't say none of that's stated in there.
Thank you. Do we have any further public comment? Anybody in the audience would like to address council? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Next Next, it's time for council discussion and deliberation. Who'd like to begin? Councilmember Menchaca?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask our city attorney if he's reviewed this agenda item and are we in compliance? Very simple.
I did not personally review this, but Martin from my office did, and he reviewed it for compliance and signed off on it.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. Any other council members have questions?
And I'll move to approve the staff recommendation.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilor Menchaca. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilor Menchaca, second by Vice Mayor Wu. Please vote.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Next item, please.
The next item is public comment, and Mr. Mayor, I have no speaker cards.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to address council? Seeing none, I'll close the second public comment. City manager report is next. All right, nothing tonight. Next is council comments and conference meeting reports. Who would like to begin? Vice Mayor Wu. I broke this up.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mayor and council members. Well, on February 23rd, the 45-person delegation from Hualien County, Taiwan, visited the city of San Gabriel. That we had a great time exchanging ideas and experiences on serving the public and creating friendship among us. Our city staff provide an excellent introductions to our city through the presentation. And to give a brief comparison of Hualien County has an area of 1,787 square miles with 320,000 residents, in contrast of our 4 square miles city and population of close to 40,000. But they are very impressive with our public safety system, public works, and community service. Additionally, our rich history amazed them. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank our city manager, Mark, Chief Alazade, Chief Wallace, Greg, Aldo, Rebecca, and Sharon, especially Jessica, who has translated the presentation into Chinese so they can understand better. And also, the delegations, they stay in the hotel in our city. And also they have made a lot of good contributions that make a good tax revenue for us. They eat here, they shop here. So it's really nice to have them to visit us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Who'd like to go next? Councilmember Chan?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, piggybacking on Vice Mayor Wu, I also attended a couple of those events that were put on with the Hualien delegation, and special thanks to Vice Mayor Wu for putting it together and facilitating. And thank you to the city staff for making the presentations and making them feel welcome. And on February 21st, I attended a San Gabriel Chamber of Commerce networking mixer at the Asian Pacific National Bank on Valley. It was very successful, and it was a nice event. So, and I think it was the first time they've done that particular event since the Rona lockdown. So it's good to get back to normal. There was a San Gabriel, chamber on the 23rd. I also attended a San Gabriel Chamber networking breakfast at the Elks Lodge. On the 24th, I attended Temple City's Camellia Festival, also very fun. And it's important for us to support and participate in our neighboring cities' events. So we support each other. On the 25th. Well, speaking of which, I attended the first ever Downtown Arcadia Improvement Association Lunar New Year Festival, and they also did a great job. On the 26th, the 26th was also a dinner event with the Hualien delegation, and they did eat at our very own 5-star restaurant. Very proud. And my parents used to eat there every week. Not as much anymore, but On March 2nd, I attended the grand opening of a new boba booth in our Blossom Market Hall. And it's a new business that does boba and smoothies. It's called Mag's Matamis. And I met the owner, Tim, and his wife, Maggie. So I wish them the very best. And that's all I have. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ding.
Yeah, okay. It's on the, yeah, it's February 21st, so I also have a chance to attend the San Gabriel Chamber of Commerce event in the Asia Pacific, the bank. I think I remember it's before the pandemic, I have a chance to attend it. And after pandemic, that's the first time that I really see the bank or business resilience after the pandemic. And then, okay, I echo the Vice Mayor who help us to have the good relationship with Hualien, the delegate. And we can exchange all the information, even like way police, fire, and public work. And they're really surprised our public worker to handle the 8,000 trees. That's the delegate always mention that. Okay. It's really good. The event it's show our historical city too. The Hualien. Okay, we can for future we maybe can have the friendship or sister city. So then another one. It's really want to see the. I have chance to attend the 28th. Sanitation, they still updated like this kind on the February 1st to February 6th. The stormwater it's effective our the district. So maybe our city staff public work can. I think they already sent it to you. How do you wellness to prevent the stormwater that happened too, but it's luckily everything it's so far so good. Maybe just some small area have problem, and I also it's really like on the 29th I go to our neighborhood city. It's the city of Acadia called challenge and opportunity regarding the affordable housing and the homeless issue for our area. It's a really good section. So, yeah, I because my schedule, but at least I listened like a 3 section. It's really helpful. I saw Vice Mayor Wu and our city manager Mark over there too, and it's a really good wellness to help us. But something maybe most neighborhood city. Compared with our city have some special issue because we don't have too much more public land to help the affordable housing. But maybe we can find the own way to how to achieve it to help our community. And let me see what else. Yeah, and we can have chance attend several business in our city. They celebration the Lunar New Year. So yeah, that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Ding. Councilmember Menchaca.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I too was at quite a few events for the delegation. Thank you, Vice Mayor Wu, for helping coordinate and being our lead. I think it was just a very important connection that we're making, and I agree that it was a win for our city in so many different ways. So thank you for that. I am going to, at this time, ask to put something on the agenda, and I need 2 more council members to, I guess, nod their heads and agree. My request is a future agenda item to discuss the termination of the HERE Commission. As the founder I've been observing and reevaluating the need for such a commission for the last 2 years. I want to acknowledge the contributions of the commissioners who have served. However, in my opinion, the HERE Commission has run its course. There was a need before, but not anymore. It's time to redirect our limited staff resources to the delivery of social services like homelessness, like mental health, which is now a high priority. My request is to include in the discussion item an evaluation by staff on the following. Internally, does the HR department have the tools to bring programs to our employees to tackle diversity, equity, inclusion? Externally, can the city continue to partner with organizations that have funding, expertise, and legitimacy? AYC is a great example where we partnered with them. We did not initiate the program, we partnered with them to do Stop the Asian Hate program. There was no need for us to originate the program or spend any city resources. And if we're going to start looking at social issues as a mother, as a former school board member, I believe we are putting ourselves in a very compromising situation if we start addressing issues, especially with minors. We really need expertise, and we don't have it. That's why in the past we've gone to these organizations. And they don't have to just be in San Gabriel. There's organizations that address a whole host of social issues. And lastly, during this discussion, to bring an ordinance to terminate the commission. So at this time, I'm going to ask, could I have the support of 2 more council members to place this discussion item on the agenda?
Do any volunteers to catch that grenade? Just that. I have one. I never approved it in the first
I
place.
know, I knew you were going to say that.
I voted no. I foresaw that.
I know. So I have
2.
I need one more.
Yes.
Okay, I have,
And I can put it on anyway, so.
yeah.
Mayor can do that. But we have mayor coming up in a week, so, or 2
Well,
weeks.
But it would be better, I want to make sure it's a discussion, it's not done at the last minute, but I think we really need to evaluate, just evaluate the commission and the need for it, because I really believe, and maybe there's other areas we can add on to, but I think it's so important for our staff to be much more involved and to take the initiative, and as council, we are providing the direction, and our staff is delivers on our direction. So we can add more to the discussion. Those are just some of the things I would like us to have the opportunity to address.
Yes, so as to not violate the Brown Act as to the content of what we would do, just to say we want this on the agenda, each individual council member can speak to
Oh, okay,
city manager as to what they'd like to see on that.
that's
and
fine.
It's up.
Well, I've already said what I want.
Yep. So I'll have the city manager contact each council member and discuss what might go on, what that discussion might entail, but we can't do it up.
You're right. Thank you so much, my colleagues. At
Okay.
least the 2 of you.
Yeah, can I add on one more? Okay. And the one more event, it's on the.
Second.
You yield your time, Councilmember Menchaca.
sorry.
I don't yield my time yet.
Oh, okay. I think it's already done.
I know, I'm just kidding. Was there anything else, Mayor? I think you closed. Okay.
We're good on that. Do you have any
So-
other comments before we?
Okay, so I am done with my comments. I just, again, thank you so much.
Thank
We're gonna reopen for Councilmember
Sorry. February 26th, I have a chance to cooperate with the Rebecca, with the EDI and the San Gabriel Hope Line Club. We do the kind of donation in the movie in our city, the senior meal and the celebration of Lunar New Year. So I saw that a lot of the senior person, it's really happy. They will have some some food, movie, they let them enjoy. So both it's the company called the EDI,
EDI, okay.
and our San Gabriel Hope Line Club. But it's a very short time to do that, but I'm glad I got our members supported. Some people, they like me, just say, send a request that they want some small absentee for their their boss, then can go the senior mayor to help to this kind of event. Yeah, that's my I want to add on. Yeah, okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else like to reopen? I have no comments tonight. That moves us to adjournment. So tonight's meeting will be adjourned at 8:20 p.m. in the memory of Mr. Kang Liu. Mr. Liu, who passed away in February at the age of 100, was a lifelong resident of San Gabriel. He was active in local government. He volunteered at many organizations and was a great community servant. So we're adjourning in his memory. That will be at 8:20 p.m. The next city council meeting will be held Tuesday, March 19th at 6:30 p.m. Meeting adjourned. Oh, it was Mr. Kang Liu. He was a lifelong resident. Yeah, he was.